I do have a kind of full 20 minutes of poetry, so I'm going to try not to make the taboo that Daniel mentioned at the first of explaining poetry, which is something of a taboo. However, I do have to just explain one thing, and one of the things that I mean about archaeopoetry is the prefix, and it's something that I learned in collaboration actually over many years. But it's more if you think about the prefix for archaeology, where the arche is the beginnings, and we have to dig down and deep in order to find the origins of things and what are the sources. So for me, arche means it's not really about buildings per se, but in fact, I am interested in the poetics of architecture. So you will hear that.
Ted, you just froze.
Not God, you know, but it turns out there's 7 sets of pieces. And there is a kind of cosmological tone and scope to my interests and therefore to the work of the poetry. So you'll notice that. And so there's a number of people who will be mentioned who are important to me, writers, and I'm working in relation to them. Before I read 3 poems from the book, I'm going to read 2 quite new pieces. And the one is for the famous Greta. I don't know if I've got my camera correctly, so maybe it's frontwards. It is? Okay, good, thank you. So Greta Thunberg is so inspirational. And I wish I had, like, her voice is just so piercing and her message is so clear and necessary. And so I thought I would make a poem, and I'm calling it The Great Unberg, just rearranging a few letters, you know. So it goes like this, and it's a work in progress, okay? Last summer, an is agreement over left. If people change, if people knew that, Parliament, us, beside us, in doing that right, this is politics, us, the climate. Words for a single second, they help to all the news, re-burning summer, to all a crisis, to all the environment, to all the question, usly, to all the other things, to all change itself. Your silence is the future. Shoulders, those about it. A lot of people say that together if we want to. Every, just like very, please, us, a future lives in our hands. When I recycle sources, I remember thinking as the climate, us, if, going on. But no one talked about if burning, illegal to have everything black and white. Ink, a civilization we change, tries like a target, but guaranteed no single day. Further to the is agreement, are we evil? No, change is required. Since as airy if happens next year, day, we grandchildren, when the climate people say instead, some solved, we already change. Why? That future is society. A lot of if we want to today, every day, in the ground, we can, the rules cause change every day. So very obedience is me to rebel. So that's me channeling Greta Thunberg. So thanks very much. Now this next piece is also new. And Greta, I think, is she 17 yet? I don't know. But this next piece is in honor of one of the early victims of COVID-19. And it's a friend of ours who was 74. And he was struggling with cancer. So, but he shouldn't have died. and he was living in New York City where COVID caused a lot of pain. And so he's one of the prominent people in the architecture world. Michael Sorkin is his name. And I consider him an archi-poet. In fact, his first degree was in literature, but he was one of the most important architecture critics in North America and in the world, actually. And we were lucky to know him a little bit. So it was disturbing when we lost him. One of his many books is called Exquisite Corpse, which people know is the surrealist game. And he thinks of the city as an exquisite corpse, a kind of Frankenstein of fragments that are built together. And so this piece is from his book, Exquisite Corpse. And there's a particular essay that is, well, it's a review actually of a book by John Haydock, who is the other archi-poet that anybody in my field needs to know about. So it's the intersection of architecture and poetry is explicit in these two people. And this is a piece I wrote in memory of Michael Sorkin, but it's also in honor of John Haydock. And it goes like this. We fill in the blank for paper witnesses, enshrine in every favor filled with houses, delicate metaphors, yield a most impossible series of shapes, went on to latent aspiration. Vary us. Not simply work is series, but ought to does material. In any nine, develop well. In depth to fill in the blank, we move edutrinsic, rather voted than imply selves. Dimension eruption, ranges become immediate abstractions, must have ideograms for 10 vanishing canonical discovery of hypo, thematics of ion, paradigmized wall moment of entry, paramount designation, retrieval fascination. Architecture becomes a strategy of elements, consequences, most immediately fused. Hemming frame, arc residue, painterly, toying persistently, newly free, becomes operations within the early 70s. Influence shapes, blishing parameters, pleasure. They also lead dramatic studies, creation elation, and mode representing compositional search for the fact able to us, scale yielding by drop and frame, sinuous mystic work in theatric sky, sheer optimism, plumbing, reuniting space gates, the project for physical movement among the camp. Elements propose a turning point of great identical trajectory program. Engaged with issues, a citizen awaits houses. We in is house for the inhabitant who stirred is and is out. Awakened distance between space and motion redeems its interest in co-pretation, e.g. fascination with Parisian character of Venetian space. Flaubert and Stendhal persist, tenuous of another terrain, if narrative solitude transformation, arrayed on a hedge, optimism, pessimism, independently exceeded, recompounded in a landscape, centering conciliation aimed at one humility. Sure, a mature Gestapo counterposes architecture as banality, but under the rubric hope for another, to extend the volume is beautiful. Concern structures, life treasures, making, allowing, fill in the blank between mask, know, and ask, risk, penetrating work, aching form drama. There is fun beneath the city, it may be. Okay, so anyone who's heard Michael Sorkin give a lecture, I'm trying to impersonate certain moments where he really, gets into character and goes over the top, completely over the top. So next I'm going to read just 3 kind of short poems from Midway Radicals. And these are poems that some of them I have managed to read in readings, but others not. And to simplify things, I just printed them here. Okay, so the first one is called Twombly, Chicago, New York. And it goes like this. As urban as a whale who conserves, generates, cement, cooling the hot cause of us, a wish show, we here are meeting. Sand or ampersand, what aids the act of, teaches the year. That poem is made from looking at Charles Olson text about Cy Twombly. It's a poem, recording Cy Twombly moving from Chicago to New York, and it's a similar path that I took in formative years. Okay, the next one I'm going to read is called So Nets, a Beginning. And, I kind of learned my way into poetry from the outside, I suppose, thanks to exploring the library. But someone I should have known but didn't when I was in my early experimental poetry years was Ted Berrigan. And he actually, I think he lived in a building across the street from the only Louis Sullivan building in Manhattan, which is extraordinarily beautiful building. And anyway, he has a famous book called Sonnets, and here it is. And I usually keep it right here on these shelves. These are the books I use that I draw from as my sources. The other poetry is over there. Okay, so his book is called Sonnets. I say So Nets, a Beginning. Piercing some point, corners have presence, warmth in the room-structured dance. Architects weave among portent, fragments of fragments. Hello, earbook, running in the streets. Inhabit the day marvels, sun-body notebook late to my hands. Strong song in sail and evening bristling, eyelids of thought bathing in shadow. Flows can pass by, burst sea, all knees wanly. Time spoke to our feet bridge. Old long trail thinks. Cities gather. Led on like sky, every handstand gives. Occasion forge. Once went like night wrench. Matter parade on currents rare to know. Names like a year, ear, pure sense, and a day. Next poem. This is the last one I'm going to read from the book, and it's it's a sort of West Coast tribute poem, and I'm going to say it's for George Bowring and Hesiod. It's called Sticks and Stones, a reworlding, and it goes like this. It's a kind of rewriting of a poem called Waddle in George Bowring's book Sticks and Stones. Sticks and stones build moments of energy war, test lockwork in lines begun as art. Hard work knowing each move unmoves closer. You and you tether halfway to ending, room to meet each end. Okay, so there's a lot more poems in the book, and I think they still have a lot of them, at signature editions, and you can get them at your local independent bookstore. Okay, now next on my stack here is something I'm very excited about. This is a collaborative chapbook, soon to be launched, from Jack Pine Press, and it's called Table for Four Eccentric Crops. Eccentric crops, you might echo, it sounds a little bit like Exquisite Corpse, but it's actually a quasi-nam for four collaborating poets or co-poets, as I say, and that's myself and three friends, Colin Smith, Jennifer Still, and Stephen Rouse Smith. And there's 16 poems in the book, and we collaborated on inventing a process, a set of rules that we broke, and we worked with shared sources. So I'm just going to read one poem, and it's ostensibly I made this poem, but it's a collaborative process with shared lexicon and everything. Okay, Chairs, it's called, which sounds like cheers. Here, Harp, hum low, kissing noise in the rain. Meet me ear to ear in Eureka, sharp. Art, the path, figured fresh things, gap, erasure, pressed fast to remain. Begin, again, slow grasp, late rush to the table hushed within. Sight's naked impulse hops, graphs, wheeled response over the top. We train, why? Here, everywhere. Soft, raw, hands open. Rebreathe. Heave, hoisting counterweights, big gist gestures, ink thinking, flowers in tandem, sketch empty chairs, a consonant reminder, our turn to refrain. Okay, so that's a kind of exciting thing, and it's much delayed, and it's all my fault. I have sewing to do for the bindings. Okay, next I'm going to read something that I started working on as soon as the book was, the final proof was done, and I had nothing left to do. It was just a manufacturing process. So this is already 3 years ago, you know. And I returned to the sources, and for me, this is a recently republished edition of Gertrude Stein's Tender Buttons, and it's one of Gertrude Stein's work is what turned me on, basically, into poetry. And one of the sections you might know in here is called Rooms. And so I thought, well, if I'm an artist, so it's not only the text that informed them, but some collaborations with music and film projections. Okay, I'm just going to read 2 of these. It's a series, and this is Walking Rooms, number 7. There is a made cinder entering the place, a single piece sees. Why is not the same semblance? Why is speech releasing us in difference? Sound alms we pin thin as an instant. Soon time, a paper room, people piling on, means this shows no distance between us. Why? If we shed why, we age in space, in place, how, distinguishing music from an open curtain. This poem is preparation to see through walls. Impressions, expression, our big picture mixture, our ample example makes love above a zigzag stairway. This room, every example, again, incalculable. Okay, Walking Rooms number 10, which is shorter, mercifully. Doubt shows the rooms we read together. As a window shouts color, carved the timeline, pleases fusing the middle. Paralocution choice bearing a question, connecting our strange conundrum makes circumstances zoom. Now, for instance, rooms in question, plans in tension, a mirror between us. Walking outrageous begins a dream, tending, sending. Okay, things are going to get crazier. I'm almost done. So I have 2 more pieces I plan to read, and basically I want to try to end happily. So the first one is yet another unfinished poem in progress, and it's called Happening Poetry for Lynn Haginian. And it's, I forgot, where's the book? Sorry. Oh, it's over there. It looks like this. Here's a photocopy. Happily is a recent reprint of that book. There's a long story I don't have time to tell you, but you can listen to her, give her motivations for having written the short book-length poem Happily on the Pen Sound website. It's really fascinating. Anyway, so this is a reworking of that text, and I'm having fun with it. It's called Happening Poetry for Lynn Haginian, and it goes like this. This happily open place, yielding, is happening for us, has arrived to a pace of imagination, uttering air, turning the future, living to locate time, whistling, laughing daylight to make no dull reality, reason's rainbow, pending communication, promising launched humanity, unity, thinking no conclusion, chance an onion, happened as a field drives loud wind into today's relief. Drawn already, flashing wings resemble unexpected praise in the frame story. Future shadows speak launched sentences, almost punctuation, makes this impact here. Yes, driving drawn meaning with remnant us, recognizing up to say things. Can say by chance magic, magic intrinsic to knowledge, just an event art hanging over a particular adventure, another side as if wanting this depiction of the good brought out, pleasure into us, saying things happen, make mid-sentence another riddle, meaning caught on us, makes delicious thinking arrive, hands us good proximity, the result, waiting, tempo, seeking encounters, yield here a source we repin the quarrel, always facing chance and history, firm to try forms, more reasoned doorways, or opens another world. Changing art is us as the situation. Text launched in the present ear's existence, barking. The point to free and be, if we cause our defining, living the if sound would infuse. Every chance we reopen surprise, our present noticed, we begin to look for another looking. Know we made the wall mean by being condensed into us. Perhaps this potent thing will hold the middle sensations, music changing sensations, alive. We see its naked fate succeed. Everything beginning acts the whole involved field changing. The room speaks incompatibility, consists of the future room for each event. All we don't notice, the extra material, can make us face split probabilities we expend tragically. Happen to find a way, accumulates, scattering action, severing, yes, it saw the wall being heard as history, a wandering word, unscrolling all, launched from a dream in question, us, the knowledge we trouble together. Oh, there's the book. Lisa handed it to me. It's a nice little book.